Is the evolution of affirmative action, and we're talking to Dr. E. Kelly Sanford from Tennessee State University, and Ms. Laverne Walker from Clarksville, Tennessee. Ms. Walker, before we had our first commercial break, we promised that we'd give you an opportunity to make some statements in reference to affirmative action and how you see the evolution of affirmative action, and let's give you an opportunity to do that now.
Fine. Civil rights acts go back to 1866, as it has to be seen in a historical context. And there were several civil rights acts, but somehow or other they never got implemented. So you have the Civil Rights Act of 1866, several in between. Then you had the Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s, and out of that came the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And to get that moving, Lyndon Baines Johnson came out with an executive order, 11246 and 11375. 11246 is for race, and 11375 is for women. And this was an executive order to establish affirmative action. But it's always in the implementation. We can have something written into law, but it just seems to take the longest time, and it drags on and on and on. So it wasn't until 1978 that they really got a structure, and the OFCCP as the agency that was going to monitor affirmative action. There's always this resistance to change. And so there was a lot of animosity towards affirmative action, but it came about because of the industry that was receiving federal funds. So any institution or agency that was receiving federal funds had to have an affirmative action plan with the OFCCP, which is the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, monitoring those plans. People have a real misconception, and a lot of people, you have to understand, did not want affirmative action to work. So a lot of nepotism was happening in the workplace because most businesses were started by families, so family members were involved. But if they were getting federal funds, it was a requirement that they have this affirmative action plan and to do extensive outreach, advertisement, and hiring practices that would bring a diverse population into the workplace. A lot of times, besides nepotism, there was tokenism. People were brought into the workforce, specifically the protected groups, the race, color, women, so forth, and they weren't qualified. And it was purposefully done in a lot of instances to say, see, we brought this person in, but they can't do the job. And you still hear these contentions that we can't find people who are qualified. And this is after 40 years. I mean, we have qualified people, and we still can't, they're not releasing those kinds of thoughts that we can't find people. Affirmative action's really for everyone. It's a fair and open process that is consistently applied, and it's by top management, so that you bring in the people who are qualified to fill those levels of the workplace where you have underrepresentation. So it's like an elevator. Affirmative action is the process by which you bring people up to the level playing field. And when this process, you'll find when processes work or when procedures begin to work, then you get a backlash. So what I'm seeing now is a process working, but a lot of information out there to confuse people. They're political terms like preferential treatment or set-asides, quotas. You know, there is no rule that says you have to have a certain number of women or a certain number of African Americans, a certain number of Asians, etc. but there are goals, and these goals were established as in the Nixon administration because companies wanted to say, well, where are we going? If you're at zero, you have to know somewhere where you're going. And the OFCCP has said these are neither the top nor the bottom, but they give you some idea about where you're going. So that's why we have goals. No one says that you have to have 1, 2, 3, or whatever, but the persons have to be qualified. Now, affirmative action takes in race, color, it takes in women, so it takes in persons with disabilities. So any one of us at any time could become disabled. We could get cancer, or we could get all kinds of disease. HIV is covered. Mental disorders are covered. So that we try to bring people into the workplace and give them an equal opportunity when they are qualified to have a job, to be employed, and to work in the workplace.
And so in a real sense, I think as you indicated, Ms. Walker, that affirmative action is not especially for any one particular segment of society, that large numbers of individuals, large numbers of groups can benefit.
Absolutely.
In a real sense
Persons
out of
over
affirmative
40.
action. Okay, that is a group that would be capable of being considered to be a part. Well, now, Dr. Sanford, let's we're making preparations for our last commercial break here, but when we come back, let's have you to deal with this as an issue. It seems to me that this whole idea of affirmative action, as we talk about the evolution of it, it seems to me that it has almost moved off the playing field itself, which is to say we don't hear too many people talking about affirmative action, quotas, and et cetera, almost as if we assume that everything has already been accomplished now. And so I guess the question is, where do we go now in terms of making affirmative action a reality? And when we come back, we want you to deal almost exclusively with this, because that's where we are now. It seems to me that we've had affirmative action, and we've had the quota idea, and people have sort of moved it in and out, and especially this administration, they're not, it seems concerned, even though they might be making great strides in other areas dealing with race and et cetera, but it is not concerned about affirmative action in that connection. And so when we come back, let's have you to deal with that, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. The topic is